is a tutorial on Greatfish cutscene skip. I feel like it'd be a pretty good visual aid to have. Not sure if there's already a video, but this is more of an in-depth explanation for beginners. Hopefully it'll help. So I pretty much wrote all the main points I'm going to talk about on the left, but I'm still going to go through the video and pause and go more in depth about each individual point to hopefully make it more clear. And at the end I will go through it without pausing, just to show how it should look in motion without stopping. So the big thing is you don't want to get refills on the swim at all. This trick is pretty big on it's pretty consistent when you come down to the timing, and no refills makes the timing pretty easy to follow, at least with the auditory cues. So when you swim in this game, near towards the drowning part, there are sounds called blubs which runners like to use as auditory cues. They're pretty distinct, and there's 12 of them throughout the entirety of a air meter. So it gives you a pretty good idea of when you're about to drown and when to let go of certain parts of the swim, or when to follow through the next phase of the swim and whatnot. So blubs are important. So first and foremost, you want to get double storage. I'm assuming you know how to do that. Pretty simple. You can figure it out on like ZSR or something. So big thing I like to do here is pause the buffer away from the island at least once or twice, because you want to get out of the way of the dock. Sometimes if you get too close to the island, the dock will get in the way of going towards Greatfish, and you do not want to refill. So that's the sound they made right there. That's a blub. They sound exactly the same every single time. Kind of speed up in tempo as more and more happen. And the first part of this trick is you want to charge to, at least for me, what I like to do is charge to about the first blub, and then use the C chart to direct myself towards the island like this. See how back of the arrow is facing towards Greatfish. And then I release. There you go, towards the island. A super major point here, highlighted like down here. It's kind of hard to see because I'm recording a video. But you want to hold ESS. You want to make absolute certain that you're holding ESS during this trick, or this swim. You will not make it if you don't hold ESS, at least most of the time. It just makes it inconsistent. I can link some ESS videos, maybe tutorial, or like in the description. I can make an ESS tutorial eventually. Basically, you want to make sure you're holding ESS so you don't lose as much speed and make it there in time, or else you will not make it. So what you want to do is go towards Greatfish until you get around the corner of the quadrant, kind of like this. I like to go a little bit deeper, so I think I do go a little bit deeper, yeah. So I get to around there, and then I begin charging again. This usually happens to me, like I usually get in this position around 5 to 7 blubs, usually. The speed can vary slightly, so you can not be in there in that range, it's possible, but usually for me, around 5 to 7 blubs, I'm in the corner. And I like to check with the C chart every now and then just to make sure. Then now you charge again, while kind of keeping the island in view. And then around the 10.5 to 11.5 blubs range is when you want to try to start pause buffering so that you're going towards the island, and then just let it rip. The range can vary that much depending on the speed you come in. As you do this more and more, you'll kind of get a feel of how much speed you have. It's just a practice thing. The more time you put in, the more easy it is to you to understand, or to know, or to feel how much speed you have coming in. So let's say you're coming in slow, you might want to go in a little bit later, or maybe come closer to the island. If you're coming in way too hot, you're probably going to want to wait towards like the latter 11.5 blubs, to maybe even 12 blubs if you're coming in really fast, but the speed shouldn't vary that much, so that range is pretty safe. And once you're pretty confident that you have the right direction and you're in that range, you want to let it rip. Just go for it. The big thing here is that you're trying to come in and drown into the cutscene so that you skip the cutscene. That's the biggest point here. So if you see yourself drown and then go through this falling animation, you know it works. And then just to confirm it works, you can see it's Eternal Night, so it worked. It cannot work if you do that and you don't get close enough, and then it will still be daytime. Another thing that can happen is that if you come in way too fast and the island doesn't load, you'll just go through it. Or even if you charge outside the quadrant, the island won't load fast enough, and then it won't work. So there's some things to think of. Another thing that I'd like to mention is that don't be afraid to use your sheet chart to get a sense of direction. It's really helpful, and if you go a little bit off course, it can really mess up your timing. So don't be afraid to waste like 5-10 seconds. It's way better than losing like a minute or more. It's like a minute and a half, 2 minutes. I'm pretty sure. It messes up. Depending on the route you do, you might want to save before this just in case. You might not have a save yet. And then another big thing is that I talked about refills, not getting refills. There is a thing you can do. I'm not gonna show it, but big thing is when you come over like towards here again, you can if you really feel like you want to get refills and you don't feel safe not getting a refill, just get refills. In worst case, that makes you're coming in really fast. Like you come into here around here, you'll have way too much speed. And if you let go of that in this range, the 10.5 to 11.5 range, you'll just hit the island way too soon, and you'll just soft lock. So if you go towards the island without drowning, you'll fall like the way it works, but you won't drown, so it'll just soft lock different. So if this happens and you get refills and you're coming in way too hot, the safest thing you can do is get in the corner again and literally buffer till the 12th blub, because that's right after that's when you drown, and then let go and send it. That'll usually work. But the scary thing about that is that it is quote unquote consistent. If you miss the pause in the 12th blub, most likely you'll drown. If you miss a pause in this range, you can probably save it, although you might not make it to the island. That's some pretty big things to keep in mind. And then last but not least, I will play it back one more time in full, just to give a clear vision of what you're trying to go for here.